Sunil, can you also share the,
Yes, I will do that.
yeah.
I'll
Thank
do
you
that.
so much for this introduction, great introduction.
I'll do that.
Well, sometimes, introductions are flattering, but it also embarrasses you. Dr. Lal is a great
Sometimes.
respected, chairman of NISTI, and he was my colleague erstwhile. So I'm very pleased that one is able to see a large number of colleagues from textile industry, also the former board members and chairman of NISTI. I sit about 3,000 kilometers away from Delhi now, so I can have a perspective which is not so driven by the day-to-day politics of the country, but and the issues which surround us. But mostly, I am concerned about textile industry from a perspective of an academician and a researcher. However, most of the people say that if you're only talking, what are you doing about it? So I have tried in this particular presentation a little more about what is action happening on the, on the in the field and in the minds of the decision makers, so that you get a perspective that things are happening, and there is also need for us to get involved much more than what it did before, because it is not just a issue of a few people in the textile industry. It is about everyone, because the planet, as it was I think decided in 1972 in Stockholm, when they passed this One Earth movement. Now in April 22nd, we had the Earth Day, and June 5th, we have the Environment Day, and we are sandwiched between. So obviously, there is a great deal of interest and commitment and engagement in this subject. So I'm very pleased that NISTI, the North India section of the Textile Institute UK, has given me this opportunity to reconnect with many of you and also talk a bit about 35 minutes or so in this. If you cannot hear me, do let Madam Nian know so that we can make any changes which are required. At this point, I would like you to just listen and try it as a dialogue or a conversation with you, not really a big platform speech. Yeah, Nian. The first slide, yes. Yeah, I just want to start with, everybody knows this famous Tale of Two Cities of Charles Dickens. And I always like this line. Many speeches, I feel that is the right sentences to start with. He writes in The Tale of Two Cities, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. So when we look at this entire current situation, we have a feeling that it is the best of times in a manner that people are now concerned about sustainability than ever before. And it's worst of times because in the last 2 years, from the statistics which I see, the interest has dipped somewhere, and there is a greater concern that why is it slipping from the, for example, the McKinsey report, the Business of Fashion report of 2025 and 24, if you compare, they say that from 29% of the executives who put it on top of the list, it has come down to 19. And similarly, the global circularity of the economy has also come down from 9.2 to 7.1. So obviously, the percentages do not show a very good. And also, if you look at the SDG report, it shows that it has been tardy. In 2023, when you look at percentage of progress, it is just about 15%, and nearly 46, 48% of the SDG goals have not made any substantial progress. So this is the condition on which one feels a little bit dejected. Therefore, I made it a point to look at the bright spots, which I will deal with in a short while. Yeah. Now, what is in summary? Because I have this habit of giving you the summary so that people, if they drop out during this session, which is not advisable, but then they will know that these are the three things which I'm going to clearly talk about. One is that we have to look at why is this fashion being blamed? Just now, Dr. Lal said about, how can fashion and sustainability go together? Now, the point is that earlier there were only two seasons, the summer and, spring and summer, and then you had the autumn and the winter. But there are now some micro season creation over the last few years, which has resulted in 50 to 100 and some cases even more than 100 micro seasons which are created by brands. And that resulted in brand creation of different kinds, which are suiting different target groups. But they resulted in a new phenomenon which became almost uncontrollable. That is the fast fashion. That is why we say that from 62 billion tons of garments and footwear in 2019, it is expected to go to 102 billion tons by the 2030. So obviously, there is a need to really look at how can we control the carbon emissions, the greenhouse emissions, because it is blame being on top of the list in terms of polluters, almost number two. And in terms of cotton farming, in terms of spinning, in terms of processing of fibers, in terms of logistics, and in terms of end of the life cycle of the products and waste management, the whole area requires to green the industrial machine processes. And also, you need to repair the social and business practices. We have seen that, brands have entered into agreement following the Rana Plaza tragedy in Bangladesh to actually control a large number of unethical practices that was there. So you need to repair wherever you find. India has not made any such agreements with brands, but maybe bilateral agreements between different exporters probably, but not really about the kind of legal tenor, the agreements which in Bangladesh has happened after the Rana Plaza tragedy. So repairing social and business practices are critical to pursuit of this sustainable future and sustainable fashion. And then there is a new way of viewing and living fashion, because sustainability was part of our entire culture ethos and the cultural values of India. So it is nothing new, and it is as the TechFash report says recently, that we had all this itinerant vendors going through the roads and coming to your house and taking the old clothes and giving utensils, even the cooking vessels in return. To that, to using the old saris as comforters, to various kinds of things, like the Buddha's famous story that a cloth worn by his shishya ends up as a wick on a lamp. So the entire process of this, how to look at products and its end of cycle was always part of India's ethos and cultural systems. Now, the biggest problem we are facing is that post-pandemic, though the VUCA word is a 1990 word, but I just put it to show you that time, if it was considered that it is a volatile situation and it is uncertain and it is complex and it is ambiguous, what would you call that current situation? When the wars are raging in some parts of the world, when climate crises have made a Republic of Kiribati, for example, in the Central Pacific Ocean to disappear almost, with 110,000 people living in that republic, and a larger number of coastal areas of India being almost eaten up by the oceans and seas. And, the kind of troubles are estimated in the BOF report of 2024 to estimate the nearly 65 billion US dollar value of garments would be affected, or production of garments would be affected by the climate crisis or climate conditions. Because there are complaints that the factories are too hot, and when you go back to your homes, it is even hotter, and it is people are not really resting properly, and it is very difficult conditions existing in number of sweatshops which are producing these very expensive even luxury. If you see the recent issues of BOF, all talk about fake luxury and how they are manufactured in what kind of conditions. So the VUCA word has become really a very serious matter. And now the new word which is used is the Bani word. So I'll come to Bani a little later, but just to inform that, when Nicholas Taleb, wrote the books From Black Swan to Skin in the Game, there was always this feeling that how do you move from a fragile kind of system to anti-fragility? How do you create the kind of systems which will make you strong and resilient in terms of how to withstand all these problems which are raging in the world? So that anti-fragility is one area which can be made through continuous innovation collaboration. And, for example, in a garment making, there are supposed to be for a shirt more than 30 vendors involved. And how do you network and collaborate with your supply chain, your creativity in terms of finding new solutions? How do you explore the new scenarios? All this become antidote to the VUCA world. But then in 1990s, if it was okay, now we in 2018, they invented a new word. Now, the Bani word is somewhat, shows the extreme brittleness which you are facing. The entire, the planet itself is in a difficult condition where 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in temperature can actually make habitats and ecosystems all under tremendous pressure. And in fact, some of it will be destroyed. More than 100 million people may be pushed into poverty if that really happens. So we are very worried that the global warming, which is making the world more and more brittle, and our own existence as a planet, the one Earth, which is not having a plan B, will be extremely precarious if we do not take it as our cause. That is why it is not just about production and controlling carbon emissions by the manufacturers, but it's also about what Dr. Lal pointed out. How do the customers look at fast fashion? How do you consume your clothing and footwear going forward? That becomes an important issue. But if you advocate that, you will immediately stand as if how will you achieve progress? And I'll come to that. How do you achieve progress in this kind of a situation a little later? Because that will be one of the discussions points with all of you. Now, the second point is after the pandemic, health anxieties have gone through the roof. And the anxiety makes you allocate a large part of your money to protecting yourself from pandemics and endemics and things like that. So you take bigger insurance, you spend more money. So obviously you don't have the kind of discretionary income which you were wanting to spend in fast fashion. So that is why if you look at the BOF report of 2025, they say that the customers are really not looking, even executives are telling that they don't expect an improvement in the fashion business. They don't expect the consumers to spend so much. They don't expect, though the earlier report said that the 54% of the consumers are willing to pay a premium for sustainable fashion. Today, they are not willing to really spend that kind of premium because they are anxious about their own existence. And the non-linear thinking has completely gone out of the window. There is exponential thinking. There is a digital revolution happening, and we are not really seeing the possibility of companies taking that linear patterns anymore. So you require to really look at the business models in a completely different way. It has become also incomprehensible in terms of where are the trends leading you to. Can you really count on? Somebody will write that, the ethnic fashions are doing well, and then you go into that. Then you say that, okay, luxury is facing serious crisis. So the point is that conflicting news items appear in the media, from Instagram to Facebook to all social handles, and they become very difficult for people to really realize where this entire fashion world is headed. So that's also a problem. Earlier, we had this fashion forecasting, trend books, etc., and you took it up and did something. But that is also not really working anymore because fashions have also become like the films in OTT platforms, which have transcended the languages. Fashion is also undergoing tremendous changes in which you need to build in a newer understanding to comprehend the dynamics of the fashion world. Yeah, Neil. Now, I mentioned in passing that the words of One Earth and the thinking started as far back as 1972. But why it became sharp on focus is a very good thing of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And that had begun in 2015, and we have just about 5 years now to come to the first phase conclusion. I don't know whether there will be a second phase because the progress, which is very tardy, and if you look at all the 17 SDG goals, two of them clearly indicate what we should do in the sustainable sustainable trajectory. That is the SDG goal 12 and 13, which deal with they call it responsible production and consumption, which I would like to translate as more mindful production and mindless production to mindful production, and mindless consumption to mindful consumption, rather than just calling it irresponsible, and the climate action. But the rest of each one also, whether it's sustainable cities, because if you know the report on nature and cities, out of 500 populous cities in the world, only 37% of the cities have even in their plan the word nature. And they do not discuss the nature, they do not discuss the biodiversity in most other states, most other cities which are highly populated. Imagine, out of 500 populous cities in the world, if only 37% are concerned at this point of time with nature, and they are not concerned about the biodiversity, what would be the kind of situation which will emerge for the people who are living in those cities? So obviously there is a problem in terms of looking at the SDG goals and how it is headed. One very good thing which India did in the Conference of Parties in 27th COP and the 28th COP, there were a very clear push by India, government of India, on the theme of lifestyle for environment, which I thought was a fantastic move, because it was a very pro-people, pro-planet effort, and it advocated mindless to mindful production and consumption very strongly. And they created this branding, almost the mainstreaming the theme of lifestyle for environment. It is not that other countries were not involved, but I'm just telling that India pushed this idea along with other countries much more strongly than others. Because one thing you should not forget: if 21% of the production of the world's textile is in China, and a large percentage of that is in India, who is actually taking the blame of the contamination of the environment? We are taking. Asian countries are the main. 70% of the production for Europe and USA come from Asian countries. And Asian countries are producing these enormous fast fashions and giving to the brands, which are selling to the marketplaces like US and Europe, which is not affected by the contamination of air and water as we are facing, because we are producing it. So obviously, we need to look at how we are going to look at putting nature, people, lives, livelihoods at the heart of the climate action. Because as countries which are in manufacturing and in production, we cannot simply say that we are going to abide by just the regulations passed by the Europe and USA and UK in terms of greenwashing, etc., and just be spectators. But we have to be proactive, because we are producing and taking the brunt of water pollution, energy consumption, carbon emissions, greenhouse emissions, and unsustainable living in terms of the cities where we are doing all this work in terms of peripheral part of the most of the cities. So obviously, this will be the kind of issues which you will face if you are not really paying attention to this. Now, I mentioned in passing that certainly the SDG goals indicate there has been not enough commitment to take the development goals to its conclusion. Because I am very concerned when you see that the percentages you can see here: stagnation or regression 37%, target assessed and achieved 15%, and moderately or severely off track 48%. So obviously 2023 updated report of SDG indicate that sustainable goals seem to be far removed. But I'm happy to say that out of many other countries, if you look at India's performance in terms of certain goals like poverty or anti-poverty steps, or women empowerment, we have progressed a lot more than many other countries. And some of the states like Kerala and others, some of the other states have done quite well in terms of improving the indices. Now, one of my arguments, which I made in this last April in the 14th Pupiljakar lecture, again, I'm, just about a month later, or in May in this year, 2025, Dr. Lal took this initiative because he was there in the audience, I remember. And, I was building on a kind of an argument that every one of the SDG goals of the 17 goals, if you put it in one column and write what crafts can do, the values of crafts and what crafts can achieve, there is a lot to learn from each of the aspects, whether it is economic empowerment in the rural areas, or preservation of cultural, intangible cultural heritage, or environmental sustainability in terms of the practices which craftsmen do, undertake, or the community development. Some of the brands are now getting rooted in community, and community development was one of the highest priorities of craft communities. Education and capacity building, women's empowerment, tourism, the mice tourism, the meetings, incentives, conferences, and entertainment or education kind of conferences which are happening around the crafts. We can, like the craft safari in Srinagar. Those kind of things are very much a possibility as a lesson, like Japan did when the Jetro started using the earlier craft, spirit of craft. Even Kenya Hara's book, Designing Design in Detail, mentions how Japan converted the various craft traditions and ethos into very contemporary and modern products, and made it a point to drive a kind of sustainable lifestyle, like the earlier one which I mentioned, lifestyle for people, or the sustainable lifestyle for people and planet. That kind of an approach they have taken in a number of cases, as we know. And that is where I feel this particular table gives later for policymakers in different companies to study in detail how you can actually build craftsmanship and technology into your activities towards sustainability. Yeah, Nian. Now, this was also a quadrant, a matrix which I presented in the Pupiljaker speech, which wanted to argue that craft is not just an object of beauty kept in on some mantelpiece, but that is not the case. We are telling that from the utility crafts, from the decorative or ritualistic or spiritual crafts, when it moves to fashion and becomes accessories and embellishments and ornamentations, and moves to lifestyle for environment, becomes a core concept, and sustainable in work life becomes intrinsically combined with crafts, and then it becomes curated luxury. So it is not as if crafts can be neglected just as just as a piece of object of desire, but it's more of an object of life influencing and sustainability influencing mechanism if you study in detail. And that is where I come to just pinpoint you, a purposeful approach to sustainability is critical. If you're just taking it as purely somebody has given you this direction that you should move to sustainability and you're doing something, that is not going to help. The moment you accept it as a fundamental purpose of your activities in the company, of leaving what this particular holistic response of meeting the current needs without impinging on, without affecting the needs of the future generations, becomes a goal in your own mind as a purpose. Then you think about the people, you think about the processes, you think about the planet, you think about your surplus of profit, which you're going to again build back into the system and the progress. Then it becomes a very interesting pattern for the company itself. So that is the whole argument where you learn from these craft traditions and link it to your future. Now, obviously, the dark reality check of sustainability shows very grim, dark picture. As you can see on the right side, the Burj Khalifa, if you take it as a measure, you can look at the 400 million tons of waste which is coming out, and the packaging is, of course, the largest contributor, but textile is not far behind. And this is the question why we are looking at design as a primary focus, because design can look at end of life of the product. And actually, people say that there should not be any end of life. Some input should be some output should be the input to something else, and it goes on to the cycle to build up the circular economy, which I'll come to a little later. But there is social sustainability, which I mentioned in passing. It is about, I was talking to an environmental economist, of a little old vintage, but he was telling that in his grandfather's will, the land was given to the elder son, but all the grandchildren and the other children of his household were given one tree each of his land. For example, a jackfruit tree was given to the eldest daughter, a mango tree was given to somebody else, which was a very interesting concept. But the nature was taken, the trees of the nature were taken as part of the economic activity in terms of living traditions. You can't have now even see those kind of trees in our compounds. They're part of the forest now, which is the difference now. That is why I said 37% of the cities are not even looking at nature, looking at the diversity. So social sustainability is critical, because all the GDP will not show you where you are standing in terms of social sustainability. GDP economic indicator alone being taken, and as the Nobel laureate Joseph Stiglitz said in his very fundamental work on how GDP is not often a great measure for understanding this kind of dimensions which affect people's lives in terms of the longevity. I was reading recently, I was aghast. The IAM, one of the alumni, telling that they have now decided to hold the reunion every 15 years instead of 25 years, because they feel that by the 25-year, large number of people are dead and they are unable to conduct the union, the alumni meet of those. And of course, I do not know how much is the veracity. Very senior entrepreneur from one of the IAMs has said this, telling that they are now cutting short the period. So there is a need for looking at what is the price we are paying. And the question somebody asked, if there is a flood or a death by a tragedy in Uttarakhand or in Kerala's landslide, and if we are burying the people and we are spending the money, will it be an economic activity in terms of GDP? It's a very stunning question. So when we are increasing the climate crisis, when we are increasing the temperature, when we are polluting the rivers, when we are depositing plastics into the ocean, and we are not caring about and only caring about one dimension of the economic output, are we ensuring that our people live a better life, a quality of life? That is a big question. So the environmental impact and the economy and ecology go together. It cannot be separated now. You can't say that economy is one trajectory which cannot touch ecology. Ecology and economics are now becoming dovetailed, intertwined in terms of how it is going to proceed. Next. So I'm very happy to now give you some examples which are bright spots in my view. Of course, I do not have access to going to the company and interviewing them sitting in Trivandrum, but I just went through the annual reports. This is Shahi's report. What they have done is, see, the greenwashing of sustainability has affected it very badly. In fact, in the European study which I read, 60% of the consumers believe that the people who are the brands which are making the claim are really not sustainable. And if that kind of figures are there in Europe, then you can assume that the customers are losing confidence and credibility in the claims made by some of the brands. But look at an exporter making a recycled jacket and using from PET bottle the polyester and all that. They have written cotton scraps and making the jacket. An Indian Prime Minister, the Honorable Prime Minister of India, sitting with another tech giant and wearing that jacket. That is a great, powerful communication. So that is not greenwashing. This is genuine communication at the highest levels of politics, telling that, look, we are looking at recycled products a lot more with care. And that is why the Bharat Tex wrote textiles and fashion and sustainability as one of the three themes which were celebrated in 2 years. Though I do not know the details in terms of how did it go well or not, but I feel that it was a good step. Now look at what Shahi has done. They have taken all the 17 SDG goals and they have looked at how you can see it probably. They have put this into different heads. If you can look at more carefully, you can see this. Let me see whether I have the little larger picture of this so that I can tell you. So in this story, what you're seeing is, what you're seeing is, you have employee health and well-being, you have the energy, you have water efficiency, you have the various aspects combined together and put into a new structure in the company. And they have called it and they have branded it called responsible for. It's a framework which they have created and branded it. I thought it was a very good thing. In the last 10 years, they seem to have, grown on a story which is doing the structural changes, the process changes, and putting the SDG goals to reformat their departments and creating responsible for planet, responsible for people approaches and branding it as responsible for kind of approach, which I thought was very good. Yeah. And this is what the framework which I was talking about. Responsible for planet, responsible for people. Every aspect of it they have tried to separate. And they have looked at integration of sustainability into every aspect of operation. They have enhancing the competitiveness of products, creating enduring value for customers and stakeholders, commitment to sustainability through innovation. They are doing a lot of innovation on recycled cotton. They are doing a lot of innovation on viscose. They are doing a lot of innovation on recycled polyesters, and they are making a virtuous cycle for the whole responsible framework. I appreciate. If a company is taking lead, we must give the credit where it is due. Yeah. Now, there are also bright spots in Arvind. They have a denim, there is a legacy. They have gone into materials a lot more in depth and tried to create a complete system for looking at the material selection and design as two aspects which will control a lot of sustainability in the value chain. So I think this is again a great initiative. And I have missed to put up the ABL, the Aditya Birla story, which is also very exciting. Their annual report has captured the ABL's initiatives in retail. I know I have talked about this about 1.5, 2 years back in one of the seminars about the retail part of the sustainability, and I was very happy to read that report of ABL, which is also. So these are bright spots happening in our country, and why I have put it up is that you may kindly like to go through, and I would like these companies to also communicate to their peers and other companies in the country to give them the strength. Look what we have done. We have done this and we have got this result. And would you like to also do this? I think there should be some advocacy coming from these leaders so that the people down the industry in the larger framework can actually take the message forward. Now, fashion is at crossroad, no question about it. After pandemic, without sustainability, if a discussion takes place on fashion, I think they are really out of sync with the world. And there is a certain kind of approach which we need to understand that if the production and consumption are going at this rate and micro seasons are kept on increasing, and if you are keeping on making the 2.5 billion garments coming into excess in the market every season, then it becomes a major problem in the long run. And they themselves should realize that the economic activity should not be linked of the companies only to the number of garments sold. They could actually make better garments which are more durable, and there is still enough population in the world to take those and use it. Because if you look at the per capita of trousers or shirts in a country like India, it is pathetic. It is very low. So there is huge road to go. So why only do fast fashion which are not durable, which are all junk mostly, and not made of very poor material choices? So there is a need for looking at a complete relook at reliving fashion and relooking at fashion. And China and India produce a lot of clothing in the Asian countries and the Southeast Asian countries also, and therefore the pressure of sustainable production and not only consumption, the movement towards a better sustainable production is more on us, because the markets are far removed from those polluting activities, because they are just buying from you. Maybe some logistics and some electricity and few things may have that certain carbon emissions, but we are more at the receiving end. So one needs to be very careful. And it is shown in one of the articles of Bharat for example. They have quoted this, that estimates indicate 262% more carbon CO2 or the greenhouse emissions, which are broadly called into one single line called CO2, is emitted to make a single polyester t-shirt than a cotton t-shirt. If that is the case, we need to really study how you can make recycled polyesters and more more sustainable viscose, etc., along with flax and linen and more natural fibers of bamboo and pineapple and various things. The whole natural fiber basket need to be opened up, because if this kind of statistics is alarming. And substituting polyester with recyclable materials offers up to 90% of reduction in toxic substances, and also up to 40% dip in emissions and 60% reduction in energy usage. Since it is written as one of the main articles of the Bharat text, I would say that that must be some real credible statistics behind it. So I have taken it, but you need to also examine how far it can be relied upon. Now, what is that we can actually look at as a complete package in terms of fashion for sustainable future? Fashion industry's perception is seen as wasteful. It is considered to be the second highest consumer of non-renewable resources globally. 41% of the fiber processing and production stage itself, the electricity usage, not using renewable energies, using fossil fuel energy for various processing and various activities. So the entire chain becomes a problem. And in terms of landfills, because of the excess production and not really caring for the excess fast fashions which you have bought, but not really using it for reuse or reducing your consumption or upcycling these products. All this constitute a large problem when it comes to fashion industry's perception. And India has really made this lifestyle for environment move in the COP27, and in the COP28 also. There were enough indication that we want to really bring down the temperature, rising temperature, or the global warming though it is not entirely upon India. It is a complete global challenge, and the human cost emissions of CO2 need to fall by 45% from the 2010 levels by 2030 if you have to limit the temperature rise. And that is where you require to look at rapid transformation of industrial system, not ordinary transformation. You need to produce digital virtual garments for trying out. Many people want to be seen on the social media with different garments. But why do we want to buy garments? Use virtual garments or digital garments which can be worn, and you can put up the social pictures. Across the world, the transfer from baby boomers to millennials to millennials to the Gen Next to Alpha and C. When you look at it, the people today, the Gen Z and Alpha especially, are people who are looking at being seen in the social media in different garments. So I think the companies need to promote digital garments and virtual garments for them to be seen in different outfits, rather than they buying these clothes at huge expenditure to themselves and to their parents, and adding to the landfills and pollutions and unsustainable living. And that is where alternative forms of energy, because the decarbonization of the supply chain is very critical. And because that is where the issues are, because large number of SMEs are involved in the supply chain. And people say that large companies have gone almost 80% of sustainable trajectory in some cases, but the SMEs are really lagging behind, pulling the value chain down, and the decarbonization process of the chain is not really taking place. Now the artificial intelligence will come in aid, because it can track what you cannot measure, you cannot control. What you can measure, you can control. So the only way is that decarbonizing in the value chain need to be now brought under AI and similar such solutions. So you are able to find a better way of controlling these emissions as you go forward. So there is a necessity for looking at, Prime Minister said this, I think, in 2017. I was present in his speech in this Gandhinagar. Everywhere, I think, in the area where the function was taking place, these boards were put up: farm to fiber to fabric to factory to fashion to foreign. But that is the chain. And in cotton farming, which is supposed to be the most chemical intensive, water intensive, and that is where the problems are in processing of cotton, which is more than 21, 22% of the global fiber consumption. if you are using cotton in this form, and 35% of the global acreage is in India, and if we do not reform the cotton farming, then there is a problem. And the fiber, the processing of fiber and this stage are critical for sustainable movement. And in fabric, also there is large amount of wastage of usage of fossil fuel as well as electricity and other kinds of energy intensive activities, and then factory to stitching and garmenting, and then the logistics and the transportation, the whole chain. You need to really examine and evaluate each part of it if you want to really look at and end of the life. Because end of the life, if you do not design and make it possible to assemble and deassemble, and if possible without deassembling, if it can become really possible to use it for other purposes, then it is even better. So the European Commission study says that 80% of the decisions on fashion will be at the design stage. And that is why one is advocating that the institutes which are teaching fashion should drop the word just design, and they should call it eco design. The manufacturing people should stop using just manufacturing, and they should call it green manufacturing. And they should look at everything from that lens. Then only things will start to fall in place in this journey from farm to fiber to fabric to factory to fashion to foreign travel, which was said about 7, 8 years ago. But I don't see necessarily the enough progress in this evaluation process. Yeah. Now, the sustainability is not only our challenge, because there is only one Earth and we are part of it. And we have a large population of that particular planet. And the sustainability dimension is a holistic response aimed at meeting the present needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. That is the point. Our commitment of this generation, we were, some of us were baby boomers, some of them were millennials, but the Gen Z and Alpha and others which are coming after this, how will they live? Will they be, suffocating in polluted, high, pollution levels of the cities? Will there be space for them, for their children to play? And I often find that, even the housing complexes are coming up without looking at how the children are going to grow up. So the holistic quality of life is not measured by just GDP. It needs to have different approaches. And that is what I keep on telling on the ESG framework. Environmental social governance framework was not just a cosmetic approach. It was supposed to change the mindset and thinking of the people in terms of looking at the performance standards of companies, moving away from purely the bottom line in terms of EBITDA. So there is waste reduction, there is reuse, there is recycling, there is renewable energy. All these are dimensions which are coming now very strongly, and we need to look at how India can also take on, the mantle of this. So the point I mentioned that since 80% of the decisions are really traced back to the designing stage, what will be the NIFs and NIDs and other institutes? Some 300 universities and 3,000 colleges are teaching design. And I have not seen a complete curriculum transformation looking at eco design principles, optimizing resource management, material selection, durability, all this put into creating a fashion for sustainable future. If you do not design the curriculum afresh, then you will be still carrying on the previous thinking, as if you can just do any number of samples and waste it in the, or you have cut pieces lying around or whatever. You are not really looking at using the technology to reduce unnecessary production and unnecessary consumption for people, and giving them too much to feed. You look at, if somebody eats more food, what will happen? They may have diarrhea, or it may die of choking or whatever. So obviously, you are actually looking at damaging the entire consumption patterns of people by having 150 micro seasons. And I think it is not a sustainable option at all. And these are very interesting comments. Eco-design should be applied in all phases of the product's life cycle, from the initial concept to what I would like to call the non-end of life. There is no end of life. It is like the Buddha's story. It goes from a garment of a disciple to become a wick on a lamp. We should be thinking beyond circularity towards regenerative design. The way we design today should be the transformation for tomorrow. That is a very interesting statement. The way we design today should be the transformation for tomorrow. This is an eco-design apparel leader at the Decathlon company. And, you can read such quotes, which are very interesting because they are the people who are managing these transformations. Customer centricity and convincing communication. There has been great error committed in the last few years by greenwashing the entire process of sustainability. People make claims, but it has no backing, and they have certain kinds of new certifications which are taken up, and then when you go into it, it's like the onion peel. It does not have substance in terms of what it has achieved, and is not measurable. So there needs to be a convincing communication. You need to really develop sustainable products. You need to monitor the supply chain. You need to assess the impact in a holistic manner, whether it is achieving what it was supposed to achieve. And sustainability often remains in the manufacturing side of the business. It doesn't clearly reach the end consumer. And there should be a direct bridge between responsible production and customer perception. This is very important because you keep on telling that we are doing, like you say in the annual reports. But what does the customer see? How do you communicate to him that it is beneficial for them? If it is not found as beneficial, he does not or she does not have a stake in that particular process. Your entire communication fails. That is what is happening through this great crime of greenwashing, which has damaged the sustainable movement, in my opinion. Yeah. So areas of focus, which I have repeatedly told a few things that, we must move from this pure design concept. All the design institutes should look at eco design as the main focus now, because India is not just a consumer and producer of these garments. We are one of the largest consumer markets in the world, nearly a $4 trillion economy. We cannot afford to damage our environment, our systems. Our people should have a good life. That is very important, not just export to other countries, because they are anyway getting finished products. The impact on their environment is far too less. So we need to really look at it as our own mission in terms of selection of raw materials, communication, brand building. And I don't find the brands communicating in this sufficiently. Waste management and ESG reporting systems. So that is why they say choose only timeless and durable designs crafted with regenerative natural resources and circular processes to support and nurture both the planet and the people. I said this in the Populjaker presentation also, that if August 7th, National Handloom Day, is converted as National Sari Day, and 50%, 49% of India's population are women, and if they are going to take a vow that they will wear sari on that day, our handloom industry, our khadi, industry, all this can be saved by people taking this interesting. I was told just before this presentation that Khadi and Village Industry Commission is doing very well. So obviously, Khadi was part of our entire freedom movement, and it is part of our DNA. And if Khadi and handloom and crafts can combine together, there's nothing the world cannot see in our sustainable leadership. And that is where we need to really promote. Many people now show that my grandmother's sari is what I'm going to wear give it to my daughter for her marriage. They are heirlooms. They can sustain and go on for different, several centuries probably. And that is where I think we need to relook at how we can make our women not just go into Western garments, but also wear the saris, which has the chance of surviving much longer than these fast fashions, which they keep buying from different places. So the first step towards sustainability is to rethink, unlearn a lot of things, reconsider how we should do things with reflection, with attention, with awareness and action. Next. I find this very interesting. WGSN, in our days, when I was with NIFT, etc., we were looking at for a totally different purpose. Now look at the transformation. They have the 2025-26 report, actually, and the 24-25 report. And they have introduced this STEPIC approach, the STEPIC. It starts with society. It goes into technology. It goes into environment. It goes into politics. It goes into industry. It goes into creativity. Now, technology has this problem they point out, and the society also, how they are looking at the changes of sustainable living and how it can be seeped into their psyche, because that is where, the things will start changing, because mind share is what leads to market share, and the eyeball share is what leads to mind share. And if you cannot control these through proper communication, the social engineering does not happen. And technology needs to go beyond technocentric thinking to a consumer centric thinking. And there you need to become user centric. You need to become very, very close to the ultimate consumer who is using this product. An environment, you need to reframe the climate language. In fact, I have been telling this also for the skill sector. Some of the skill sector job descriptions and job roles and things like that are so, not really increasing your confidence levels. They bring you down in life. So sometimes the climate language is also like that. It becomes too much written in a technical way by which they don't understand what exactly it is. And that is where I liked, one of my students from NIFT who has done this conscious fashion presentation through her, product, which became very famous, the doll, which she created in Pondicherry. So those kind of climate language, then people understand, okay, this is the problem of tsunami, and tsunamika is a result of this particular situation which we are facing. It gives them employment. It teaches them that the ocean and these resources are to be looked at in a different manner. The politics of climate migration as a resource also is a very interesting concept they are telling. Industry is embracing alternative frameworks and metrics. The metric of what they are assessing as their company's greatness is something which needs to undergo tremendous change. Creativity is the biggest resource of Indians. And I was amazed when I went for the convocation speech in Amaravati recently that the students are more than 60, 70% of the students in that young designers book directory were doing sustainable design related projects. Now, how do we bring all those creative people from different institutes to think and create a new framework of action in India? Because they are the people actually in the front. I remember going to Abu Dhabi, where 300 students in the the world skill competition created a youth declaration. Two of the declarations were think green, think innovation. And how much of their thinking is being talked about and brought into by companies and consumers, I do not know. But I think creativity is tremendously in our institutions. Yeah. Now the time I've already taken some 40 minutes, but I'll just conclude in quickly. The linear to circular economy. Circular economy word I think became in 1992, and I think it is one David and Kevin Turner who wrote this entire concept of circular economy, and that is not just some esoteric word. It is in terms of finding everything as an output coming from goes as an input to the system, and continuously the processes keep circling. And it's not that it's a limited. The planet is kind of taken as a system which does not have scope of not going beyond a certain stage and trying to find the resources. Like Mahatma Gandhi's famous statement: "There is enough in this world to meet your need, but not your greed." So I think that is the essence of looking at the circular economy. And I think circular economy is a system solution, is a framework that tackles global challenges like climate change, biodiversity loss, waste, and pollution. Next. I'm going to skip most of it because it is about some examples of what is happening in India. The khadi enhancement, the kind of articles which are there, which I've referred to. The handloom sector employing 45 million people. The transitioning from linear to make waste to a circular economy. Fashion brands are incorporating circular design principles. As a cultural influencer, how fashion has the power to turn the life of the people. You have to move the needle. And there are a lot of things happening in these headings, which I've told you. If there is for you to really research a bit and see how, I mean, I have explained in this next two slides, what are those programs. The National Handloom Development Program, the Khadi and Village Industry Commission, the Sustainable Fashion Day at Lakme. I was on the board of Lakme Fashion Week. The effort they took with 2 days, the Handloom Day and the Sustainable Fashion Day. I remember from 2006 to 2018-19, I have seen on the Lakme Fashion Week, it was a major, major success. So I feel that the communication need to go on because it is not a one-day affair. NIF Center for Sustainable Fashion, I recently came across this, and India's extended producer responsibility policy, fashion as cultural leadership in creative economy, because that is where the whole direction. I think the Prime Minister said, Honorable Prime Minister said in Mumbai yesterday about how the film industry and other creative creators should create this creative economy. I think we need to talk to the creators to create this communication of sustainable living in the country and sustainable production. Not only for fashion, I was reading Corsia, the aviation. They have a target by 2030 to bring the aviation, which is also another big polluter. Every industry has this issue, motor, vehicles. So I think it is not just one sector's problem. It is a challenge for everybody to look at, and everybody should cooperate to see how we can support each other in this collaborative journey. Next. Next. So, I ran into one of my colleagues whom I respect, Nimesh's book. It has not yet come in the market. He sent me a copy, which I thought was fantastic because after I studied this Arvind and Shahi and ABL, etc., I was looking at mainly the large people. But what are the small and medium enterprises doing? I think it's Nimish Dave has done a fantastic job in creating a do-it-yourself manual for SMEs. And this book will be now available on Amazon, I think. And I really liked it because he takes you through chapter by chapter in a very simple manner, giving examples. And maybe as a follow-up to this lecture, I would urge the smaller companies to see how you can use it, because the triple bottom line looks very, I feel it's 6 or 8, doesn't matter. What is important is that, do you have the purpose to do what is required at this point of time? And if it's so, I feel it will be a very good idea to dip into this book. Next. So let me conclude. The steps towards fashion for sustainable future. Sustainable future is not an option. It is not just one of those, like our Amitabh Bachchan's, Crorepati, some kind of an option ABC. You have to do it. It was supposed to be done yesterday. At least we have to do it today. You have to evaluate the value chain, because not a single garment can be produced entirely. That is why the scope 1 and scope 2 emissions are discussed about. Scope 1 is about where the factory directly attributable emissions, the CO2 emissions. The rest is taken care of by other vendors who are contributing to your garment. Maybe a buttonhole maker or some kind of a embroidery chap outside. But the entire evaluation of the value chain and looking at scope 1 and scope 2 emissions very clearly becomes critical. And the structural changes, like what Shahi has pointed out, how the SDG goals are woven into the thinking and the different departments of the organization. And branding responsible for, and Arvind has branded is called fundamentally right. That is the word they have used. So they have this fundamentally right as the key word, and Shahi has the responsible for kind of word. Linking craftsmanship and skills. I always quote this. Tim Cook and Steve Jobs used to say, why we go to China is not because of their cost advantage, because they are able to link craftsmanship and their skills and technology in a seamless manner. And we need to learn that. Skill is not craftsmanship. We are we are actually belittling the whole process of craftsmanship of the country when we say that the skill can actually substitute craftsmanship. It is two different things. And sustainability integration, as I showed you, the entire value chain from farm to the foreign and to the waste and to non-end stage. We need to really plan through the design stage itself. And policy transformation. I'm hearing these signals and sounds made in government circles and different people. We are people who are using mostly the power of the throat and the communication. But I think, I must compliment the people who are taking the steps on the ground. The 50 SMEs examples with Nimish Dave has shown. It's great because they are trying to do something which they believe in, and they are reaping the benefits of creating the brands around a purpose. And that purpose is what is going to drive their growth in the future. Breaking the barriers of vertical integration, forward integration, making it seamless. And that is where the AI comes in. You are now able to take from the point of A to Z. The entire process can be now break the barrier through AI and track and measure each point of your, because if you cannot measure, you cannot control. And that is where the issue comes in. Higgs index or apparel coalition or Sure or whatever whatever gatherings and certifications people are thinking about, you need to measure, and without measurement, you have no chance of really making an impact. Technology integration is critical. You have a great chance now with the artificial intelligence coming in a big way to really put in place your integration and dovetail it with AI. And talent acquisition development. I just alluded to the people, the students whom I saw. I was excited standing on the, stage with the students of the Amravati NID, where some of them were telling that they have read my 2008 Indian design book. I was surprised. One of the girl students wanted a picture because she wanted to show it to her mother. Our talent in our colleges and schools, they need a bit of hand holding, and their projects are extremely fascinating. They put up a damn good show in this campus, and I was very impressed with the kind of work they are doing. And also Wipro University, which I went, the forests of life, the mountains of life, the rivers of life exhibitions. They are so concerned about sustainable development, these universities and some of these institutions. They are a pleasure to really communicate to you that there's a great examples of talent acquisition and development. Curriculum. I want to call upon educators like Nian and others. This is the stage for a complete revolutionary change in the curriculum. Because without curriculum as an instrument, you cannot change the institutions. And that is where I think a great deal of work needs to be done. Applied research. This Dwarka Prasad, what is that university, Subhash Chandra Bose University in Noida, the students were doing PhD. They've all gone into pure technology and not looking at the parameters which are now going to be as part of the technological processes. You need to how to bring in human centricity, how to bring in the sensibility and empathy of compassion of sustainable development. That is missing in applied research, and the student was struggling to create medical garments for the doctors and nurses. So they need to be really told that these are issues on which the patient and the doctor has a communication, and these are things on which they need to have fabric in-depth research which will help them. So I feel our students also need a lot of guidance in terms of the applied research areas where they need to take up and what are the parameters. Yeah. I would like to conclude by, this is, I believe in this. Joseph Stiglitz, Nobel laureate, he says that what we measure affects what we do. If we focus only on material well-being, say the production of goods, rather than on health, education, and the environment, we become distorted in the same way that these measures are distorted. Because he's telling that the economic output is measured by GDP, which was an old system. But now also we continue to say that we grow at 6.5% when our people are finding it difficult to breathe in Delhi, or we find that the coastal areas of Kerala are gone, the beaches are gone, or your fish do not taste any more good, or your products are adulterated, and your clothes are hurting your body and causing cancer or whatever, then we are really not really doing justice to these measures. And I think Joseph Stiglitz, 10 years work they have combined in this particular book. And I'm glad that I ran into this accidentally the very last minute. And I was happy to conclude this because I would like to further investigate this articles a little more later. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I have taken more than 45, 50 minutes, but I enjoyed talking to you and building on what I spoke in April 18th last year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Koshy. I'm going to give you just a few seconds for a breather, but I do want to thank you for the length and the width of the topic you've covered, and including, of course, how deep it was. It's going to take us a little while to figure out many things, but I have to warn you, there are many questions ready
Questions.
for you, as
Yeah.
long as you're kind of ready to answer them. So there are
Yeah.
questions and there are raised hands. So I'm going to bring them to you one by one, and
Yes, yes. I
I'm
am at
sure
their
they'd like
disposal.
to.
Mini and I
Yes,
am at their disposal. They have taken the
okay.
trouble of
I
spending a
know.
weekend Friday to listen to this means, I am very grateful to them.
All right. Just and let me just scan through this. Okay. Please have some water, Dr. Koshy,
Yeah,
because
yeah, I have.
you
Yeah,
really
thank you.
talk such a lot. It's been a can we have this PPT? I don't know whether Dr. Yadav has answered this, that yes, we will send it to all the registrants at the end. Sorry, just a minute. Quite informative. Thank you for this. I encourage you to subscribe. Very purposeful. Thank you. And okay, there's a question from Nandani Modi. How
Yeah.
can how can luxury brands maintain exclusivity while adopting sustainable process that often emphasize accessibility and transparency?
Yeah. I think it's a very important question because of late, if you have seen the latest BOF also, they are warning against the fake luxury products. So the luxury products have to be very authentic, very original, and there is a great amount of possibilities in natural fibers, natural processes, and how you are able to communicate that you are doing a very authentic, honest job. And often what happens is, because of this high premium attached to it, you need to also look at whether this much premium is required to be called as luxury. Because in our country, if you look at the royal palaces or any of the things which we see in the earlier times, they were highly luxurious. They were ultimate of luxury. But we are actually calling what is luxury is sometimes not the real perception of luxury. So you need to also look at to redefine luxury. Today, living like lifespan and health span. If you have a good health span, your lifespan may not matter because, in the sense that both are very important. But if your health span is not good and your lifespan is long, then you are suffering. So it's like that. The luxury products should give people the value for their money. It need not be prohibitively expensive. So one needs to really not do any greenwashing, but very authentic approach, and that is where the brands will build their long term sustainable communication. What is actually sustainability? You are telling that the water, air, your general life around you are not having toxic substances around you. You are living a comfortable life for which you are contributing your brand if it is assuring them that this particular material will be having less chemicals or not having any chemicals. They are natural fibers. They are processed and produced with this kind of measurement. And you are able to communicate that effectively. I think the brand will build on its own. After some time, you will have people coming to you. There is no question about it. Many examples are there around you who are beginning to do such things. And this book lists a number of examples of Nimish's book, which I referred to. Yeah,
I hope it has helped you, Nandini. There are three raised hands. I'm going to call out
yeah,
to them one by one.
yeah.
Ranjit Menon, would you like to state your question?
Yeah, I hope I'm audible.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Hello, Dr. Koshy. It's
Yeah,
been a
thank
long
you.
time. And thank you so much for your presentation. It was great. I just had a quick question. I had actually three questions, so I'll just ask one, and if there is time later, I'll ask the others.
Yes, sir.
So, first of all, I was just wondering about the second-hand upcycling possibility with
Mm.
second-hand shops. So my experience in Helsinki was such that there were collection units which collected second-hand clothes, so people could
Yeah,
easily dispose them, and they were redistributed in so-called second-hand warehouses, and they were excellent places for people to find retro fashion, and it was actually very sought after. So why
yeah,
is the concept of second-hand a bit stigmatic as I see it in India, or is it just that nobody has actually taken initiative?
yeah. It's a very good question, and I would have liked to actually deal with it because I promised that I may use a couple of these slides from this recent publication. It is called the. Um, it is just published actually. It is. I don't know whether you can see it. It is a very interesting report which you can probably buy. It is called TextFash report. So what they are attempting is they are trying to. So this is the cover page of this report. I don't know whether you can see. It is about. They are showing the sustainable choices of the people. It's a study which has just come out, and I went through it glimpsed only. I can't really completely authentically speak about it, but in summary, the question which you asked is very critical in the study. It says that irrespective of the age group, Indians like to repair. They can go to a brand shop and repair. About 50 to 53% in number of cases, they want to go to a brand shop and get it repaired. If I bought from Marks and Spencer a trouser, I would like to repair and get it used. So I don't know why brands are not listening to this process. The second part they say is that from family they are willing to take the second-hand clothes, but not from outside. They are also not believing in rental. The entire study, if you look at the different age groups, different 22 to 35, 35 to 45, different 10,000 to 20,000 rupees monthly income, all that they have examined in this report. Richard Bensel is the editor. TextFash is the company. You can, research TextFash. It is quite doing well with many reports. This report has just come out where they examine sustainability and different aspects of it. What you mentioned, the rentals, the second-hand clothing system, the repair and reuse, all these are examined in this. So it will be not fitting within our time frame to go into details, but if I can send the couple of pages only, I promise that, because it is a report which they're trying to sell probably. So, but she being a very interested in our improvement of the textile sector said that, Dr. Koshy, go and use it if you want a couple of slides. So I just want to tell you that it's a very good report. It will give you ample answers to the question which you asked.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. May I invite Mr. Salil Chawla to ask your question?
Yeah, good friend. They published my book. Salil, thank you.
Koshy, very nice reconnecting with you, maybe after 6 years, post-corona. Great opportunity. And I have to congratulate, as always, great presentation.
Thank you so
and
much.
Very insightful, very enlightening. After 50 minutes, I'm sitting a lot of new information, even after 36 years of experience. I think I didn't have so much to have, on sustainability as you have been able to provide it.
Very, very kind of you and your
ये
brother.
तो.
Yeah, my
Thank
compliments to both of you. I read your report whenever it comes up. Your publication, which keeps on sending me the emails. I read all of them. So thank you very much for keeping the flame of a communication to the textile sector.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the question I need to ask you, in the beginning of the presentation, you made a reference of City of Two Tales,
Yeah.
which has exactly resonated with me. And
Yes.
down the line, somewhere you said we are living in the world of VUCA, which is
Yes.
very true,
Yeah.
Textile and fashion is a word of dichotomy. Why I say it is dichotomy, on one hand, fast fashion has made a deep inroads and it is here to stay. I don't think it is going to go away in a hurry. And on the
Correct.
other hand, what is surfacing is slow fashion in a very slow manner, true to the word slow,
Yeah.
So it is very difficult to create a kind of a balanced harmonic situation between the two, because as you said, boomers to millennials to Gen Z to alpha to C to whatever, perhaps for them, because they chase also social influencer stuff like that, fashion
Right.
is all about novelty. So how to maintain, because towards the end you said how responsible is the manufacturing for planet and for
Yeah.
people.
Right.
So how exactly can we maintain a balance between the two? You as an expert, what is your take, sir? Thank you.
My take is that, one of my students from NID, Rahul Mishra, 2003, 2005, that period student, has taken as a, kind of his purpose to have slow fashion. And Rahul Mishra has emerged as one of the key figures in promoting slow fashion, converting the slum weavers and people to take them to clusters and rehabilitate them and create environment for them to do better, social engineering and ethical fashion. So I feel there, when you have people whom you feel can be great influencers to the new generation, like him and many others in the fashion. But since I know him personally, he doesn't mind me taking his name. I just took his name. But there are many others who are doing excellent work as well. So I feel one of the things is to have credible, convincing communication from such people, just like, in other areas. So which will then promote people to really do slow fashion. What is slow fashion? Slow fashion is only meeting your need in a manner which is responsible and mindful. Mindless, ordering online is what promotes this kind of fast fashion, because we have now on a click. I myself have done it in earlier times, because you get fascinated by a design and you click and order, but it lands up and you are not even using it for quite some time. It is lying in your wardrobe. So this excessive habit of clicking and buying online has resulted in massive consumption of these garments, which are not really useful. And many of the time, it is purely by your impulsive behavior, not really a response to a particular offer, but a reaction to an offer which you look as if it is very good. So I feel it's something on which online, I'm not telling that they are not needed. It is very much needed, because we nowadays have so much a problem in going and traveling and all that. So online is required. But how to make people aware that you should buy what you require and not buy in excess. So that is the slow fashion's one of the main objectives. You have mindful consumption rather than mindless consumption. So I do not have an answer to you specifically how to do it, but I feel convincing communication is an essential part of the story. And as I have pointed out, the manufacturing part is communicated very well, but the advantages for the consumer from their point of view and how they get a better quality of life, they are not often communicated. They take it as something which is okay. Why are you asked to take a single-use plastic to avoid? And we are all now going to malls with our cloth bags, which are used for that. It has now, like the crackers in Delhi were stopped by students, the gatekeepers of information and influencers need to get into action. That is when your behavior starts changing. And for a society to change, it is a slow change, like slow fashion, but which you rightly point out. So I feel it's good for our country to look at khadi and handloom and the principles of craftsmanship. And then you begin to learn that you are never asked to buy in excess. You are asked to buy durable, well designed, good products, which will enhance your personality, which will give you comfort, which will give you happiness, rather than pushing you into despair and hopelessness.
Dr.
Sir,
Koshy.
massive
you very much.
consumption is one moment.
Ma-
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Massive consumption is good to industry as well as to economy also.
Yeah, that is why I said that the Joseph Stiglitz book, GDP growth is not an indication of the social and environmental growth of a country. If our water we cannot drink and we have to buy bottled water all the time. Earlier we used to open the tap and drink. Today nobody drinks that. Similarly, the clothes, we do not know whether it is good for your body. And a lot of skin rashes and cancers can be attributed to very poor quality of dyes which are used. So obviously, you have to balance it. I'm not telling that the economic growth can happen without production, but look at the per capita consumption of trousers in India. They are not very good. I think it is only about 6 meters or 7 meters of cloth consumption. I could be outdated a bit, but the consumption has not really leaped up. In general, when you look at it, is about the urban consumptions which are picking up, and that is why you find excessive deterioration of our cities. Our cities are becoming unlivable. So it's a problem which we have to find solutions.
Can I get you another question, Dr. Koshy?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Mr. Kamal Mishra, would you like to ask your question? Okay.
Yeah, Kamal. Yeah.
Mr. Kamal Mishra.
There was one question from.
Okay, so there's one. Then I'll move on to Gurpreet Singh. Mr. Gurpreet Singh, would you like to?
Yeah, Gurpreet.
Yes, good evening, Koshy Sahab. That's a wonderful presentation you have given us.
Thank you so much.
My questions is related to the previous. My question is like we all talk about sustainability. We all talk
Yeah.
about a lot of things into sustainability. We never talked why this question has been arised. We've been like earlier, and if we go for the earlier stages, means the earlier life of our life, means the garment which we used to have, they used to sustain for long time, long
Yes.
period. And nowadays, the fashion designers, they are just copying up. They are not creating anything like this.
Yeah.
So then, and the brands, they least bother about the quality, the stitching qualities. They just want to showcase every week. They need a new sample or new garment design should be displayed in their racks.
Yeah.
Which is more creating mess into this. I can say environmental basis. Means like we polyester, we recycle it up. PET's bottles, we are recycling it up.
Right.
Nobody has till now has been measure how much heat or how much while recycling plastic in the PET's bottles, there is a fumes comes out from that plastic.
Yep.
That destroy the environment also.
Correct.
So this is going to be, nobody is measuring that part also. We are talking about sustainability, but we have to go for that part also, because looking into sustainability in polyester, you have another problem will raise out later on the stage.
True.
Secondly, now the second question is like, means if you remember, late 80s and early 90s, in Germany, there was a consignment sent for the polyester T-shirts. Now people were wearing and they got to start ration the rashes in their when they wear it up. So then they stopped the polyester. They didn't buy polyester, and they wanted to have a tester from Singapore. They were a particular test for the allergic test. So every part of the world has to get the test done from the Singapore, and then then the German people used to buy it. So similarly, while we are making recycled PETs, yarns and other things, this is again going to be similar problem will be raised in the future cases.
Yeah. No, you're right. Actually, heating process in the first two stages of fiber processing and fiber, production, and even in textile actual fabric production, there is a lot of heating which creates carbon emissions, no doubt. It is said that almost 8 to 10% of the emissions are coming from the textiles, and out of which certainly the problem of polyester and then PET bottles, whether, I have not really studied to make a final comment on, I'm not an expert on that, but I would say that, they were trying to find a measure in terms of how much of recycling they have done from the PET bottles to create those. But in terms of its heat produced and its energy consumed, I have not come across any study to make a studied comment or a knowledgeable comment. But I would, from a commonsensical point of view, what you said is correct, because there must be heating process, there must be a lot of energy as well, fossil energy used or electricity used, etc. So there could be some other implication. Collateral damage is there. A complete, that is very interesting. Some people say that sustainability is about having absolutely no waste at all. But will that happen? I do not know. But we are going through a stage of exploration and understanding scenarios. But, the first step is very important, that we take up the stage and set the purpose.
Sorry to interrupt you in between.
Recycling.
I have used recycling product PETs, staple fiber while using this microdot fusing. I've been heading that plant also. And when I used to put that 50% of PET bottle fiber into virgin fiber, polyester PET fiber, then with the heat consumption and the fume which was to come up, the smell was rotting. Smell was rotting, and I tried to use 3 to 4 times, but it was more and more the smell was coming out. So basically it is we say it is a sustainability, but a longer time you cannot recycle 1 or 2 process more than that, because after 2 process it is going to make a worst environmental pollution there will be there.
Correct. No, microplastics are certainly affecting the oceans. There is no question about it. I have seen pictures of some of the straws which people used to drink soft drinks getting into the eyes of the some of the animal, some of the the habitat gets affected, and even the fish and other you can say that our own creatures around us are
Yeah.
finding it very difficult to survive because of the microplastics and other things which fall into the ocean. So that is very true that it is not going to be a complete solution. But what else can we do? You look at our museum in the morning, they have created a bottle structure in terms of a steel structure in which you put all the plastic
Yeah.
bottles. But by evening,
Right.
it is filled. It is filled even today. 1 liter bottles are filling up these things. So you need to find out some options of recycling it some way or other. But I'm sure that more sustainable process will develop over a period of time. We are all
I mean,
learning. We need to
we,
learn
we,
with
we,
the
we should
purpose.
be like, new generation.
Yes.
People should understand that new generation also understand this thing. The time when we're in 80s or 70s, we were using it.
Yeah.
How we are reusing the process with our all products, we daily day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Those were sustainable. Those were sustainable. It was not creating pollution. If we go back to that process, we'll definitely means we can come to some solution of some problem will be reduced by using that particular method. The
Dr.
old
Right.
age.
I would request you to quickly answer a few more because
Yeah. Let us take up the
there
other
have been a
questions.
few.
Thank you.
I
Yes.
think it's a
Thank you very
statement
much, sir.
more. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So there's a question from Dr. Santosh Kumar. Sorry, is somebody? No, Dr. Santosh Kumar. He says, in a nation where artisans are highly underprivileged and are treated not less than beggars, how could you see them running onto the national highway supposed to lead India towards international growth?
Yeah. I see. I am very much concerned about the craft people, and our languages are disappearing in the country. The craftsmen had disappearing. I am told that 400 languages have disappeared. So, crafts and craftsmanship and languages are all at stake in when the progress of some certain kind take place. So, craftsmen's life has not been the great. They have abandoned many of the crafts, and their younger generation are no more interested. Basically, because I feel they should have been given the B.Des and M.Des right after the independence, because 200 years of rupture of history, and as Shashi Tharoor writes, the bones of the weavers were getting bleached in the central India, is the language he has used in the book, which is quite a touching statement, how the crafts started dying during the British rule. And thereafter, I think the right kind of support was probably not forthcoming, and they did not get the respect the society should have given. It is one of the presentations I remember in NID when I was there. They estimated something like 34,000 crores of money will be required just to have one cluster skills re-established. So some large figures were mentioned. Now it may be irrelevant, but I'm talking about a few years back. This modernity and tradition and modernity, seminar on crafts. It's a complex question. It cannot be answered. It requires another webinar where everybody wants to discuss this.
There's a question from a student, Ananya
Yeah.
Tiwari. She's asking, she's right now still pursuing MFM and wants to know what skills and knowledge areas should a fashion management student focus on to build a career in sustainability within fashion.
No, I think it's a great question. I feel you have great future if you are interested in the subject. Many of the companies I just showed you the examples, the top layer companies in India are already very much aware, and they are taking people with this interest. And I feel one of the things which we need to do is learn also AI to look at the process of measurement, and looking at also innovation in terms of the fibers and fabrics, how you can actually make it more sustainable and durable. So there is innovation in fabrics possible. There is a design stage. You can actually look through the entire process of eco-designing in a very different manner altogether. So if we bring in these concepts very strongly, any company will be happy to have you. So I feel it should be part of the MFM or any other course in design. They should absorb the spirit of sustainability from the point of view of the consumer and the production and the end of life cycles, cradle to grave approaches. So much to learn in this subject, because the entire planet requires your service. It's not global companies are fond of taking people of that kind, and bringing into their team. I don't think you have to worry at all, except getting the technological bandwidth to use it for measurement in these companies where they are lacking, using technology to help in digitalization. In helping sustainability, technology can play a major role. Because the more you produce virtual samples, the more you produce digital samples, people will stop buying just to show. I myself, I feel that, oh, did I wear this because this picture may appear somewhere? So you try to wear. So it is an excess consumption which happens because you want to be seen that you're not in penury, and you need to show different garments. So people buy excess, especially youngsters buy a lot of garments. I know many of them. In fact, I don't want to name them. Some of my nieces and all that, they buy excessive garments because they are very what they should show in a social media, what should they show. So there, I think new technologies can help them to wrap themselves up in new garments which are purely virtual. And they have the avatars which are possible to be made, and they should be encouraged to do it. So I feel you have great scope in bringing technology for sustainability.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Koshy. Just there
Yeah.
are two comments. If you'd allow me, I'd like to
Yeah.
read it out. So that adds on to the conversation.
Yeah.
Mr. Ashok Chakrabarti says, why don't we introduce the percentage of content of fibers used,
Yeah.
which would be easy to separate it on every single product made out of textiles?
Brilliant.
This has to be mandatory while buying new one with exchange, with some percentage of discount. So segregation of fabrics is a huge headache. That's the comment from Mr. Chakravarti.
Completely agree. Yeah, just like if the biscuits and all this, FMCG goods have this complete description, why can't we go into the elastine, or the various components of the fabric should be shown in detail? Absolutely. It is shown in many labels now in Europe and US, but I think it is a good idea to segregate fabric. That will be very helpful.
So Mr. Raj Tiluguli also comments, there is a clear-cut division of stakeholders, one from industry that do not believe in sustainability, and the other from the academia who don't believe in industry.
No, but our job is, what is Nian, what is the role of leadership? Right? Leadership is to bring together the contrasting ideas and conflicting, positions taken by people into some kind of convergence. I feel that people like him, he has such huge experience. The moment they try to start intervening, the people are willing to listen. And as we have seen such a great conversation we are all having, that means that people are spending their very valuable time to discuss an issue on which they feel that they need to do something. So I feel we should not just take positions thing. I always tell the government also that you are telling today full stop, that you don't discuss this. No, I will discuss with you. It is a pause for me. It is always a comma, not a full stop. All processes of things you should be taken as comma. Today, what we are telling, tomorrow it does not become a full stop. It keep on adding new dimensions and new possibilities, and we should give room for improvement at every stage.
Right. So, Dr. Koshy, this has been such an enlightening lecture, and I think we have been introduced to many new aspects.
Yeah.
I'd like to now invite our NISTI members and leaders to, if they'd like to make remarks. I'll just read out their names. Dr. Kuldeep Sharma, Dr. Kothari. Can I just read it out so you can just, Dr. Kothari, Dr. Kushal Sen, and Dr. Shanbag. If you're ready to speak, just let me know. I can unmute you.
Okay, Nian.
Yes, sir.
A great friend is here after a long, long while here.
Such a pleasure to see you.
In fact, it is you are darling of our heart.
Yes.
Title Darlie Koshy, synonymous with this for us. You say the cities are unlivable. That's why you have left for Trivandrum. And we miss you here. Why? Because you have been instrumental in that tenure of yours with us, that you made the NISTI, with your vision, you made the NISTI sustainable. Your outreach approach, and we have now heterogeneous talent with the NISTI. And
Very
now the
nice.
webinar series which we are having for the benefit of the textile fraternity is so worthwhile that it has done the branding for the Nifty. Thanks to you for this visionary approach. We wish you could be more active on this platform also in future, considering that this is you are also patron of the same and
Absolutely.
and
I take great pride in that, Professor Kuldeep.
now my personal question is this:
Yeah.
looking at your knowledge base and splendid performance of this presentation, I find your energy so good at Trivandrum. Maybe they were also good because you performed here as well. Like to examine your lifestyle and emulate it
Yeah.
if that opportunity permits. In that situation, Mr. Chairman is here and our members are also here to contemplate a visit to the Trivandrum and see in what way you have been sustaining
Why not?
taking a long life. And in fact, it is I've been aspiring for it. So please consider this as a compliment. Yet a plan to assist us to make a tour of that place and see the surroundings in your company.
No, I will speak to the Institute of Engineers. They are very keen to have you people. It will be possible to arrange a seminar by all of you, such eminent people, Professor Kothari, Professor Vinod Janbag, you. Everybody is such eminent, experts. So it will be good.
Thank you, Dr. Koshy,
Thank you very much.
to be with us now. And then
No, it is Dr. Lal's initiative. Because when he asks something, I never refuse. I just simply accept it, because he is such a great colleague.
Thank you so much, sir, for that.
Dr. Kothari, would you like to? Shall I unmute you? Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, we can probably.
Yes, sir.
Hello. It was very nice to listen to you.
Sir.
My point is that sustainability is very important, but linking it with fashion is not tenable. Because once you really talk about fashion and you're talking about various seasons or microclimates and other things, you need to keep on changing your attire, you need to changing your clothing. So as soon as you talk about fashion, the sustainability really goes out of the window. What is your comment on that?
No, I think Dr. Lal started with the same comment in a different humorous manner. You are a leader in academia. I can only say that see, slow fashion also is getting great attention now. It is not as if it is just dismissed today. People are really looking at the fiber. They are looking at the fabrics. They are looking at the processes, and the Higgs Index did a great deal of help. The Sustainable Apparel Coalition, with 200 or plus brands joining them, have done great surveys to put the details of carbon emissions and things like that on the label. So it's a complex thing because the companies keep pushing. That is why the late Darshan, who died recently, he brought some 1,900 for the Reliance, the brands, into the country. And obviously, each brand will require some economic parameters to sustain. And so they put pressure. And I'm so sorry that, he passed away, and he is such a bright guy. But the point is that each of this brand coming to India is looking at the market. And in the market, the pressure is to produce more and be different than the competitor. Certainly, there is a pressure on fashion to perform by excessive production and excessive consumption. But I think the more we demand, how did the crackers stop in Delhi? It is not. It was unthinkable for me, having lived 26 years in Delhi, to see a Diwali which is quiet and very, very controlled. It happened because the children started really becoming the big advocates of. So I feel that nothing is impossible. Even fashion will fall in place by using a limited, a mindful consumption approach. Scandinavian countries, Amsterdam, the Netherlands, all these are becoming really In fact, some of the exporters are performing great service now by entirely turning to sustainable garment exports. So I feel it's a
No, but
mission.
they are not
It's a
really
movement.
trying to reduce the consumption. They are
Yeah,
trying to increase the consumption by introducing new concepts,
I know.
new
This,
types of materials, or more sustainable materials, what they think are they are promoting. But ultimately, the amount of waste which is going to be generated is going to keep on increasing.
true.
One is the population is increasing. The second is obviously the companies are pushing for more, pushing us to buy more and more.
Yeah, I
That
agree. From 2019, 62 billion, tons of garments going up to 102 billion tons by 2030 is a staggering, alarming figure. So there needs to be behavioral change, and that is where the nudge principle, again another Nobel laureate. I am a great believer of nudge. By issuing orders, you cannot change behavior. You have to nudge, just like this two staircases examples which he gives in the book or in some one of the articles. That is, which one staircase had music, the other was simple steps. People started using that steps, which every step you hear the music. So then they started climbing the steps, which was not even expected. And the incentives which we build into lowering consumption, regressive, it may sound regressive, but it's like demarketing, which was one of our lessons when we were in MBA. But I don't think many people use it. But smoking, for example, in public places, smoking was so rampant. And today, I don't see anywhere in aeroplanes. I remember traveling with my bosses in the days when I used to smoke. We were smoking in the flight. Today, you cannot even imagine, in public places or in restaurants or anywhere to smoke. How did it happen? It happened because it was a very serious matter, in my opinion. Today, I don't find in Kerala any of the nukkad, in any of the places, the smoking in public places. It will be seen as a person which is boorish, uncultured if you do that. So how did it happen? If such a serious addiction could be changed by not reducing the consumption of some garments which are not required by you, it can happen. It is a behavioral nudge principle which we have to use by incentivizing people to understand that if you buy less, you will get more points or something like that. It will be a reverse economics. Ecology and economics cannot be separated.
Dr. Koshy, sorry, I
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
interrupt
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Dr.
I
Kothari.
still would like to go back to Mr. Kamal Mishra because I think we missed him and he's got a big question over here. Can I
Yeah.
invite Mr. Mishra to this?
Where is Kamalji?
Please, can you
Hello.
talk, Mr. Mishra? If you can. Yes,
I
sir.
think there's some problem. I think there's some problem with my video.
But I can hear you. I can hear you properly,
hear you.
Kamalji.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Dr. Koshy. It was great hearing you. And the insights that you've given are really
Is broken, Nian?
Yes, sorry. So I'll try to read out the question is put
Yeah.
here. I'm just
Please read out, yeah.
Yes. Kamal Mishra. As a check on greenwashing, don't you think making it mandatory for putting a carbon footprint tag on the garments will bring in a check?
Oh, absolutely. It is very important that, actually, that is why I went on telling about if you can use AI, which can now be so helpful in tracking the carbon footprint from the stage of farming to the consumer, it will be a great revolution which will happen. And I think some of the companies are beginning to do that in at least some stage of the process. But if it becomes more ubiquitous as the industry progresses, I think it will happen. And it is very important to tag it with the carbon, actually carbon in a manner is a composite word, which is CO2 used. So different types of things are there, green gas emissions, depletion of the fossil fuel, ozone layer. So many things are involved. So one needs to really look at what will the customer understand. The climate language sometimes puts off people. If you say carbon, like, our toothpaste is, let's say, defined in the chemical terms. What is it? It's chalk powder and essence or some kind of some taste. That will not sell. But the moment it becomes that you are showing close-up of a different thing, then you buy the toothpaste thinking that now there is black charcoal and coal and all that. So it is how you communicate. So I feel our communication of climate change and these impact requires a careful study, how to make people understand what they are looking at. It's not often that same language is the language which you should use for communication.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Dr. Koshy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Koshy.
Yeah, thank you, Kamalji. Long time. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Mr.
straight.
I am going to invite Dr. Shanbag to make his remarks and also request him to please give vote of thanks for Dr. Koshy's lecture.
It was a great pleasure listening to Dr. Koshy. He's a expert on sustainability, there's no doubt. But I think that in this presentation today, he took us into new vistas of understanding of the subject matter and a modern way of thinking about it. That has been the very significant contribution that he has made this evening. I have a couple of things to say. How does Dr. Koshy feel about Trump's policies on climate affecting sustainability in the United States in the first place, and with that, globally? And the second is, you touched in passing about Scandinavian countries, but I think they're a great model because there is a lot of minimalism which is practiced in the Nordic countries. And that has led to a considerable drop in consumption of clothing, as well as consumption of several other, items of consumption by the societies there. So essentially, it seems to me that the pressure should come from the farthest end, which is the consumer end. And obviously, the markets respond to the consumer because they need the consumer. And if the consumer changes in terms of a mental approach to consumption, the markets will change in terms of their mental approach to production and distribution and, marketing and branding for that matter. Yeah. So how do you feel about this?
No, so first question about Trump pulling out of Paris Convention and, the entire climate climate action in general is a highly regressive step. There's no question about it. And in terms of producing more in US, I wouldn't mind because then it will have an impact on their environment rather than using the environments in China and India to, produce and take the products at a cheaper rate sitting there. That is somewhat, a thing, but, our exports and our economics demand that we continue to export a fair amount of products to these countries. I agree with you that people going by cycle in Helsinki and in Copenhagen and all these places, Oslo. I remember it was almost a large number of single households there. So it has got a certain kind of social issues because the degreening and graying both have affected the Nordic and Scandinavian, some of the European countries as well. So degreening to some extent is affecting large number of countries not to have enough labor even to do things, and graying with the people living long and, having, so this, at a stage when you are having more elderly people in the society, the consumption is, likely to come down dramatically. Unless you have youth, which will, which is between China and India, I think we have the largest group of youth in the world. And that is about something like 550 million people in India is almost like youth under the age of 50. So the question is very true. The minimalistic lifestyles, and not using has helped them to do all this. But I think there is a balance. Everything in the planet should have been about balance. So when something goes out of hand and becomes too overblown, then things start becoming deterioration is very fast. That is why this 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature increase is a myth, in the sense that even that we cannot afford to do, because the studies indicate very clearly. The intergovernmental panel study has placed a major report telling that 100 million people will be driven back to poverty if that kind of global warming take place. So where is the option available if it does not become a priority for the country itself in terms of combining ecology with economics and GDP with some kind of index which will measure how far we are going in sustainable India? So that is where I think for a diverse country like India, communication is a tough call to get it done in so many vendors in the supply chain. It becomes a humongous task. And in terms of cotton farming being one of our major cash crops, with 35% of the global acreage in India, it is all a very complex economics and other issues involved in this. But I'm glad that people like you who are economists and people who are thinkers need to put in more efforts. I am just with a very limited understanding of all the complex issues involved. But from a fashion point of view, I feel just like the smoking was controlled, the excess consumption and excess production both can be not regulated, both can be nudged to take a more positive stand in the coming days. As we have controlled many things, this can also happen.
Thank you.
Well, Nain, should I proceed with the vote of thanks?
Just one last bit. So, Dr. Koshy, there are many people who still would like to talk to you.
Yeah.
If you like, would you like to give your contact to them so that they can continue?
I mean, it is on my website, www.darliekoshy.com. There is a space for even asking questions, etc. But, sometimes, people are so busy afterwards, they may not feel so pressed to ask. But if you send me the questions and their email, I'll certainly answer, or we can have a call.
So I'll request everybody to please note down Dr. Kali's, Dr. Koshy's www.
DarlieKoshy.com. It is the website available on which. And my numbers are also available to you. You can share with those people who want to call. I am available anytime. I'm interested in certainly building upon your support and your confidence in taking these measures. We can work together in some areas. And
Sir, some of the participants are asking for your presentation. Could we send?
Yeah, please. Yeah. Knowledge should be shared. There is no hoarding on knowledge. Just feel free to share. Yeah.
Dr. Koshy, is that fine?
Yes. Please do. Fine. As many as people.
So guys, please connect with Dr. Koshy as you want, and
Nisty can share. Nisty can share to those who want the presentation directly. I have no
objection. Those who have
also.
registered with us, we can share this.
Please, even others. I have no objection.
Thank you. Dr. Shanbhag, I'd like to now invite you for the vote of thanks.
Well, it's a pleasure to deliver this vote of thanks on behalf of Nisty. Nisty and as well as the entire audience, which has received this presentation extremely favorably and found it very knowledgeable, very thought-provoking, very insightful. So, as it is warned, Dr. Koshy has taken all the pains to put together a very comprehensive perspective on sustainability, touching from the macro to the micro issue. The important lesson that we have coming from this presentation today is that this is a subject matter which is very deep in terms of its complexity and complicatedness. But nevertheless, it must be studied, it must be examined, and it must be researched and explored. So thank you, Dr. Koshy, for bringing this to the light of the audience here today. And we wish that there will be more knowledgeable contribution coming from you on this subject matter in the future. Thank you once again.
I want to thank NISTI, for the great work that you're doing. The conference which took place in IIT was great from what I could read. I wanted to very much come, but unfortunately that time the World Craft Forum prevented me from attending that with various preoccupations. And my distance also sometimes come in the
fact,
picture.
we were very eager to see you as a speaker there.
No, I know. I'm
And
always available to NISTI and NISTI friends, which I hold very dear, and their NISTI fraternity is very dear to me. And thank you very much for your support and for your patience.
Dr. Lal, invite him for the virtual dinner. In turn,
we must take on the offer of Kuldeep ji. We must have one meeting in. I will talk to Balakrishnan Nair of Institute of Engineers whether they can host a board meeting or something of NISTI in Trivandrum. And we'll be very happy to work with other people, like the current Textile Corporation MD and the Handloom Corporation are known to. In fact, I was a speaker recently at their place. I can talk to them and explore this possibility. But Kuldeep ji, this is the second time he's mentioning it. I cannot just take it lightly and leave it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Koshy.
Thank you, Nian, for such a pleasure in controlling my problem of skipping slides, etc. You solved so dearly and so nicely, Vijay and you. Thank you so much. And Mamta has been really doing great work in promoting Vajpayee ji. Thank you very much. All the audience for this great, boost which you have given me. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining.